The clock on the office wall read 3:07 a.m. Rows of cubicles stood in perfect silence, every computer screen black, except for one. Evelyn's monitor flickered with a document she didn't remember opening. The title read, "The Last Employee." Her breath caught. She hadn't typed those words. The text beneath the title shifted on its own, forming sentences one by one, as if an invisible hand were hammering away at the keys. "You are not alone in this building." A faint tapping echoed from the far end of the corridor, like fingernails drumming on a desk. Evelyn froze. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. The screen glitched again. New words appeared. "They are watching." She turned slowly, eyes straining in the dim light of the emergency bulbs. The hallway stretched into shadow, darker than it should have been, as if the darkness itself was thicker, heavier. And then, footsteps. Soft. Deliberate. Coming closer. Evelyn's heart pounded so loudly she thought it might give her away. The footsteps stopped, just beyond the corner of her cubicle row. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to stand. "Hello?" she whispered, her voice barely carrying. No answer. Only silence. The monitor blinked again. New words scrawled across the screen in jagged letters. "Don't look at their face." Her stomach dropped. Whoever, or whatever, was out there, the computer knew about it. Or worse, it was warning her. The silence shattered. Something scraped against the wall, slow and dragging, like metal claws tracing patterns in the plaster. Evelyn backed away, step by trembling step, until she bumped into her chair. The screen flickered violently. The words changed again. "It's already behind you." Her breath hitched. Cold air brushed the back of her neck, carrying with it the faint stench of damp earth, as though something had just crawled out of the grave. Evelyn froze. Her hands trembled against the desk as she slowly turned her head, inch by inch. But there was nothing. Only shadows stretching unnaturally long across the office floor, as if the overhead lights had bent themselves into some cruel shape. Her monitor flared again. This time, not words, an image. A blurry reflection of her cubicle, except in the picture, she wasn't alone. A tall figure loomed behind her in the photo, faceless, its head tilted at an impossible angle, like it was studying her. Evelyn spun around, heart hammering, still nothing. Yet the monitor flickered, and the image changed again. Now the figure was closer. Its outline clearer. Her phone buzzed suddenly on the desk, nearly making her scream. She snatched it up, desperate for some connection, some proof she wasn't trapped in this nightmare alone. One notification. A new message. Unknown number. It read, "Stop turning around. Every time you do, it moves closer." Her knees buckled, and she collapsed into the chair, clutching the phone like it was her only lifeline. The hum of the fluorescent lights grew louder, almost deafening, vibrating through her skull. And then, the lights went out. Total darkness. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. The entire office was swallowed in blackness, every corner stretching into infinite void. She could still feel the cheap plastic of her desk beneath her palms, the cold metal of the chair legs against her skin, but sight was gone. Her phone screen lit up in the dark, a pale blue glow trembling in her hands. Another message appeared. "Don't look at the windows." Her chest tightened. Slowly, unwillingly, her eyes drifted toward the row of tall glass windows that lined the far wall. Shapes. Dozens of them. Pressed against the glass from the outside, like pale masks with hollow eyes, distorted mouths smearing across the surface. They weren't human faces. They were stretched, melted. As if someone had tried to carve expressions onto wax and left them too close to a fire. They were watching her. The phone buzzed again. "They're not outside. They're reflections. Don't move." Evelyn's blood ran cold. Her body shook violently, but she stayed frozen, clutching the phone until her knuckles turned white. A soft sound broke the silence. Tap. 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 Not from the windows, behind her. Her monitor turned back on by itself, bathing the cubicle in a dim, sickly glow. The screen showed the camera feed of her own office, as though someone had hacked into a surveillance system. And behind her chair, in the glow of the monitor's reflection, a figure stood. Tall. Thin. Its head scraping the ceiling. Faceless. Evelyn's scream never made it out. Because the lights flickered back on. The cubicle was empty. Only the hum of the office. Only her ragged breathing. The phone buzzed again. One final message. You already looked. Now it's inside. Evelyn dropped the phone, scrambling backward across the cold tile floor. The cubicle walls seemed taller now, closing in, bending the space around her. Every shadow flickered unnaturally, like it had a mind of its own. A whisper floated through the room. Soft. Unintelligible. Yet every word sank deep into her bones. We've been waiting. Her breathing accelerated. She knew she couldn't stay. She had to leave the building, had to get outside where there was light, where there was air. The office doors ahead were locked. Every exit, barred. Her keys, on her desk, were gone. She turned in a panic, scanning the room. The monitor flickered again. This time, it wasn't the office on the screen, it was her apartment. Her bed. Her living room. The bathroom mirror. And in every reflection, the faceless figure loomed behind her. Evelyn screamed and ran toward the emergency stairs. Her footsteps echoed endlessly, bouncing off the walls as if the building itself had grown. The whispers followed her, rising into a cacophony. Overlapping voices that weren't human, yet somehow familiar. At the stairwell, she slammed the door open. Fog poured in, cold and dense, twisting around her like fingers trying to pull her back. She stumbled outside. The parking lot was empty. The streetlights flickered dimly. A thin mist curled across the asphalt. And she saw them. Not one, not two, dozens of faceless figures standing among the parked cars, their long limbs stretching impossibly, heads tilting at impossible angles. A voice, hollow, carried by the wind, called her name. Evelyn. Her legs buckled. She tried to run, but the asphalt beneath her feet felt like quicksand. Every step forward brought her closer to the figures, but also, impossibly, closer to the office building behind her, which now seemed endless, stretching taller into the sky. The phone buzzed in her pocket. Another message, from her own number. You can't leave. You're part of it now. Panic clawed at her mind. The whispers weren't just sounds, they were thoughts, invading her skull, telling her to stop, to kneel, to obey. Her vision blurred. The fog thickened, merging with shadows that reached from the office building, snaking like black rivers over the ground. She stumbled into a small alley, gasping for air. But the alley wasn't empty. Figures pressed from all sides, faceless, silent, relentless. Evelyn raised her hands, screaming into the void, praying for someone, anyone to save her. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the shadows receded. The faceless figures vanished. The street was empty. The mist lifted. Her heart was pounding. Her breaths came ragged and fast. She looked back at the office, quiet, ordinary, harmless. Her phone buzzed one last time. The screen lit up. This isn't over. We'll be waiting. Evelyn dropped to her knees, trembling. She knew it was true. No matter how far she ran, no matter how many doors she closed, the whispers had already reached inside her. And they would never let her go. Evelyn tried to move, but her legs felt heavy, like they were sinking into invisible tar. Every streetlight flickered above her, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to stretch and twist toward her. A soft laughter echoed through the empty city streets, childlike, innocent at first, but warped, distorted, and cruel. The sound made her stomach churn. She turned a corner, hoping to find someone, anyone, but the streets were deserted. The whispers began again, threading through her mind, urging, taunting, guiding. "Come closer, join us." Her eyes caught movement in a shop window. She gasped. The reflection wasn't just her own. Behind her stood dozens of faceless figures, their heads tilting impossibly, limbs bending in ways nature didn't allow. Evelyn spun around. The street was empty. Only fog and silence met her gaze. She ran. Every step was mirrored by the whispers, mocking her, telling her she could never escape. The city itself seemed alive now, alleyways twisting into loops, streets folding back onto themselves, ensuring she could never find her way out. And then she saw it, a carnival, rising from the fog like a nightmare made real. Bright, colorful lights flickered, music playing somewhere deep and distorted, laughter echoing from rides that shouldn't exist in this part of town. The entrance arch read, "Hollow Creek Carnival," the same words she had never seen before tonight, now glowing in fiery letters. Her heart froze. She hadn't remembered any carnival here before. How could it appear out of nowhere? A figure emerged from the mist at the gate, a tall woman draped in tattered banners, red eyes piercing through the fog. The same figure from her office monitor, now fully corporeal, waiting. "Welcome back," she said, voice like the rustling of dry leaves. "You belong here now." Evelyn tried to scream, but the sound caught in her throat. The carnival lights pulsed, and the shadows of the faceless children appeared, drifting toward her, silent and reeling. She realized the truth with a cold, unbearable clarity: the carnival was alive, feeding on fear, and it had claimed her. And as the fog closed in, the whispers chanting her name, Evelyn understood, there was no escape. The fog thickened, curling around Evelyn's ankles like living tendrils. Every breath she drew tasted metallic, like the remnants of blood and rust. The carnival stretched impossibly ahead, rides twisted and bent in impossible angles, Ferris wheels looming taller than buildings, their cabins swaying without wind. The whispers grew louder, merging into a chorus of voices, some childlike, some ancient, some screaming in pain. They were coming from everywhere, yet nowhere. Evelyn's skin prickled, she felt their presence beneath her, inside her, as though the carnival had already claimed part of her soul. She stumbled toward a funhouse. Its mirrors reflected not her own image but fragments of her fears, twisted faces, shadowed limbs, eyes that weren't human staring back at her. Every mirror she passed warped reality further, bending the night sky and the fog, making her feel dizzy, unsteady, trapped in a space that no longer obeyed logic. From the mist, the tall woman's voice called again. "Do you see them now? All the lost souls. All waiting, all wanting." The faceless children drifted closer, their laughter harmonizing with the carnival music, now a sickly, discordant symphony. Evelyn tried to turn away, but the path behind her had disappeared, the fog erased it completely, leaving her trapped. She stumbled into a tent, dimly lit with lanterns that flickered in the fog. Inside, shadows danced along the canvas, moving independently, forming shapes she could almost recognize. Figures of people she had known, friends, strangers, each twisted into grotesque parodies of life, their mouths open in silent screams. A soft hand touched her shoulder. She whipped around, no one was there. The whispers pressed against her mind. "You cannot leave. You belong to us." Her heart hammered, panic clawed at her throat. She ran deeper into the tent, the air growing colder, the fog thickening until she could barely see her own hands. At the center of the tent stood a massive, shadowy carousel. The horses weren't horses, they were contorted shapes, skeletal, with eyes that glowed like embers, their mouths twisted in eternal agony. Each time the carousel spun, faint screams echoed from somewhere deep inside it. Evelyn's legs refused to carry her further, but the whispers were insistent, and she knew she could not stop. She took a trembling step onto the platform, and the carousel began to turn faster, faster, the fog swirling into a cyclone around her. The tall woman appeared again, her figure stretching impossibly as she hovered above the carousel, red eyes locked on Evelyn. Embrace it, or be consumed. Fear feeds it, fear fuels it. Evelyn's mind raced. She realized there was one thing the carnival feared: defiance. The whispers faltered for just a heartbeat when she met the woman's gaze. "I am not yours," she shouted, voice cracking but resolute. "I refuse." The carousel shuddered violently. The shadows hissed and shrieked. The fog recoiled slightly, and for a fleeting moment, Evelyn felt the tiniest freedom, a spark of hope. But the carnival was patient. The whispers returned, louder than ever, and the ground beneath her seemed to dissolve, folding into darkness. She fell, screaming, into a void where time and space no longer existed. And in that void, the carnival waited. Patient. Eternal. Evelyn fell into the void, darkness swallowing her completely. The whispers faded for a heartbeat, then returned, louder, insistent, surrounding her from all sides. She screamed, but no sound escaped. Then, a sudden flash of light. She opened her eyes. She was back outside the office, fog lifting, streetlights normal. The carnival was gone. Her phone buzzed. A single message. "We'll be waiting." Evelyn dropped to her knees, chest heaving, knowing the truth: some nightmares never end.